On the 11th of November 2025, Michael D. Higgins ceased to be President of Ireland. For 14 years he had occupied Áras an Uachtaráin, projecting an image of benevolence and passionate advocacy for human rights in distant lands. Yet at home in the quiet ceremony of the presidential suite, he affixed his signature to law after law, many of which are now regarded as the most sustained assault on civil liberties in the history of the Irish state. 6 laws in particular stand out. Each was enacted during his tenure, none referred to the Supreme Court. The president who spoke so movingly about dignity abroad became the silent enabler of coercion at home. The presidency itself is widely misunderstood. The public sees pageantry and foreign trips. Few appreciate that Article 26 of the Constitution vests in the President the ultimate constitutional veto. Before any bill becomes law, the President may, after consultation with the Council of State, refer it to the Supreme Court if it raises a question of such importance that the will of the people requires judicial determination. This is not a ceremonial flourish. It makes the President the final gatekeeper of the Constitution. Michael D. Higgins used this extraordinary shield only once in 14 years, and never on the laws that reshaped Irish society in a fundamentally negative way. Next, we will briefly review several laws that Higgins allowed to be passed during his term as President, all of which should have been referred to the Supreme Court to test their constitutionality. The first is the Gender Recognition Act 2015, which was signed into law on the 22nd of July 2015. This act introduced self-declaration of legal gender for adults, requiring only a statutory declaration by the person. From a human rights perspective, the law prioritised gender identity over material reality of sex, eroding the rights of women and girls to single-sex spaces, services and sports. It compelled speech by mandating the use of preferred pronouns in certain contexts, and interfered with parental rights by allowing minors aged 16 to 17 to apply to change their gender with court approval. The second is the Health Preservation and Protection and Other Emergency Measures in the Public Interest Act 2020, which was signed into law on the 20th of March 2020. This short enabling act laid the statutory foundation for the Minister for Health to enact hundreds of COVID-19 regulations. In this regard, the Health Preservation Act empowered the Minister for Health to restrict movement, close churches, prohibit gatherings, limit funerals and weddings, and dictate which businesses were essential and therefore allowed to remain open. This law was passed through all 5 stages of Dáil Éireann and 5 stages in Seanad Éireann and signed into law by Michael D. Higgins inside 48 hours. These laws were then used as a battering ram against the people of Ireland for the next 716 days. The third is the Harassment, Harmful Communications and Related Offences Act 2020, also known as Coco's Law, which was signed into law on the 28th of December 2020. While this law was initially intended to only criminalise the non-consensual publication of intimate images, the government, knowing that the majority of the public were focused on COVID-19, decided to introduce a new offence of distributing, publishing or sending a threatening or grossly offensive communication. The debates in the Dáil at the time highlighted that this was a way of introducing hate speech laws through the back door, and that it would be used to silence ordinary citizens criticising the government and government policy. The fourth is the Health Amendment No. 2 Act 2021, also known as the Vaccine Passport Law, which was signed into law on the 21st of July 2021. This act mandated that citizens disclose their private medical information in order to access pubs, restaurants and cinemas, with the intention of extending the scope of premises that the vaccine passports would apply to, and be in no doubt that if the war in Ukraine had not necessitated the opening of Ireland's borders, the list of premises would have extended considerably. This act literally introduced medical apartheid, discriminating against people on the basis of their private medical information. The fifth is the Health Regulation of Termination of Pregnancy Act 2018, which was signed into law on the 20th of December 2018. This act permitted abortion on request up to 12 weeks and after 12 weeks if there is a serious risk of harm to the health of the mother. Now, while this might sound reasonable, in reality it has resulted in abortion being used as a means of contraception, with the numbers of abortions increasing year on year. For example, in 2019 there were 6,666 abortions. In 2020 there were 6,577 abortions. In 2022 there were 8,156 abortions. While in 2024 there were 10,852 abortions. So much for abortion only being used in the hard cases. You must also remember that there are many in government that now wish to extend the current abortion laws, such that any doctor or medical practitioner that would carry out an abortion, even up to birth, would not be criminalised. And the sixth and final law that we are going to discuss is the Criminal Justice Hate Offences Act 2024, which was signed into law on the 29th of October 2025. This act creates aggravated penalties for any offence said to be motivated by hatred of a protected characteristic, including gender identity, race, religion, etc., noting that the term hatred remains undefined. This law has codified a hierarchy of justice into the Irish legal system, such that the more so-called victim points a person has, the more justice they are entitled to receive. To conclude, Article 26 of the Constitution empowers the President to refer any law to the Supreme Court before signing, ensuring judicial scrutiny of potential constitutional violations. This shield acts as the final constitutional safeguard against hasty or overreaching legislation, protecting citizens' rights when the Oireachtas may fail. By requiring pre-enactive review, it prevents irreversible laws that could undermine fundamental freedoms, equality or the rule of law. Michael D. Higgins served as President of Ireland for 14 years, and during this time he referred only one bill to the Supreme Court, and this was a bill concerning judicial appointments. Higgins was not merely passive in his role, he was a performer. His speeches abroad condemned authoritarianism, while his pen at home enabled it. The establishment adored him for it. Progressive NGOs praised his compassion, while corporate media lauded his global moral leadership. All the while, ordinary Irish citizens were locked in their homes, barred from churches, excluded from restaurants and silenced online. Ireland today has self-ID by form, abortion on demand, routine online censorship and a legal framework that punishes opinion. None of this was inevitable. A single referral on any of these bills could have forced proportionality, sunset clauses or definitional clarity. Instead, the President, who never tired of quoting the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, became the silent architect of its domestic erosion. Michael D. Higgins will not be remembered as the defender of the weak, but as the betrayer of the free.